New Republic, Global Currency Reset, Events of the Last 16 Days to July 7. By Judy Byington. July 7, 2016. Website: childabuserecovery.com. Produced by Higher Self.
On Tuesday, June 21, 2016, China launched its gold-backed yuan. China had already refused to accept the fiat US dollar for world trade, thus making a move to assure closing of the Federal Reserve. Now with a gold-backed yuan, China would determine the world benchmark for gold and replace London's gold fix. 2. On June 24, Paul Ryan announced a tax reform agenda that appeared to carry lines of the Nisera Law, the law that was the basis for the forming of the new U.S. Republic. Republicans unveiled the sixth and final plank of a better way, a pro-growth blueprint for a simpler, fairer tax code. Americans would be able to do their taxes on a form as simple as a postcard. The plan reorganized the IRS so that it focused on serving taxpayers, not the government. 3. Also on that same June 24, Britain withdrew from the Eurozone, plunging global markets into a free fall. As Pentagon analysts put it, Brexit may lead to Frexit, French exit, the collapse of banks, populism, nationalism, and anti-globalism. This was also likely to lead to an end to Hazarian mafia-sponsored Muslim immigration. "This is the worst period I recall, there is nothing like it," is how former Federal Reserve Board Chairman Alan Greenspan described the general situation and the market chaos that followed the Brexit vote. 4. Greenspan and his Rockefeller and Bush sponsors might have been concerned, but their friends the Rothschilds said they made $2.5 trillion in one day on Friday by shorting all the stock markets and going long on gold. This was their biggest bonanza since their insider trading on Waterloo. As the Rothschilds said, the best time to make money is when blood is running on the streets. 5. By June 26, top CIA experts were publicly claiming that a revolution was imminent in Europe and the United States. 6. The bankrupt European Union had become even more dictatorial than the Soviet Union according to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The percentage of mandatory decisions made by the European Parliament is larger than that of mandatory decisions made by the High Council of the USSR, concerning its member republics. 7. The bankruptcy of the EU was triggered by the bankruptcy of Deutsche Bank, the largest bank in Europe, according to members of the Rothschild banking dynasty. Deutsche Bank was now under Chinese control. If the Chinese had not stepped in to save Deutsche Bank, its collapse would have triggered a domino effect that would have taken down the entire European and then Western banking systems. Right after the results of Britain's June 24 vote were made public, Germany's Deutsche Bank, with 65 trillion in derivatives intertwined in several other Western banks, let go of 3,000 employees. 8. The market experienced a modest rebound on that same day, June 24, when the Bank of England, along with all other central banks, promised to pump unlimited liquidity into the financial system, all of which was promised only a day after the Fed's stress tests showed that all 33 banks exceeded minimum requirements. Did they plan to save world markets with a global currency reset? 9. On June 24 and 25, the Swiss National Bank, International Monetary Fund, and IMF Economic Review, had a joint conference in Zurich, Switzerland on exchange rates and external adjustment. Something had to be done. The U.S. markets were set to begin a trading day on Monday, June 27, down over 700 points at the opening bell, and could possibly fall over 2,000 points depending on how London, Germany, France, and Spain markets opened hours earlier. If this negative trend spiraled out of control, it would cause an automatic shut-off of trading. 10. On Saturday, June 25, Tariffs were implemented at the Iraqi border, believed to be based on the new Iraqi out-of-country international dinar rate of $3.71. 11. Over 203 countries had rushed into final settlement that Saturday, June 25. All remaining or outstanding sovereign debts and final opening currency rates on the new system were said to be settled by 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 12. By Sunday, June 26, Greece, Germany, France, Italy, Ireland, and the Netherlands were considering joining Britain in leaving the Eurozone, so stimulated after the British pound was announced as being gold-backed. 13. The BRICS system took command of the global economy and was said to have again flipped the RV switch, as of Sunday, June 26 at 12:01 a.m. Again, the global currency reset was held up. 14. Evidently on that Sunday, June 26, the Farmers Group were told they could exchange. This is the group that long ago brought the successful lawsuit before the U.S. Supreme Court that resulted in the Nisera Law, and creation of the new U.S. Republic. Whether or not that happened was anybody's guess, considering the non-disclosure agreements that Farmers Group recipients were required to sign. 15. On June 26, Prime Minister Abadi raised the Iraqi flag over Fallujah and officially announced liberation of the citizens from ISIS. Celebrations began. Again, the events in Iraq were not reported by the U.S. mainstream media. 16. The new digital, transparent, and gold-backed global financial system was scheduled to begin functioning sometime during the banking business day of Monday, June 27. Again, that didn't happen. 17. By June 27, Britain's bankruptcy and exit from the Eurozone had spread throughout the interconnected global financial system. The lack of liquidity reached U.S. banks with Goldman at 3-year lows and Bank of America and Citibank plunging over 12%. 18. On June 27, U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan called for a return to the gold standard. 19. According to weekly geopolitical news and analysis posted by Benjamin Fulford on June 27, the Rothschild family sources claimed there was serious infighting at the top levels of the Hazarian mafia over what to do. Britain had gone into bankruptcy, left the Eurozone and put global markets into free fall. They asked the White Dragon Society and its allies to wait until July for the return to the gold standard. 20. In the week prior to July 4, the Chinese government had contacted leaders of other Asian countries, as well as the heads of the G20 group of nations, to inform them that they expected a deal to be reached between the White Dragon Society and the Rothschild family group. That week, a group claiming to represent a coalition of 172 sovereign nations, also threw in its support for a new, inclusive financial system. 21. The global currency reset and gold standard for global currencies did, in fact, finally officially start on July 4. From 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, on that July 4, the gold bullion spot price flatlined. There was no worldwide gold trading. This temporary down period, or reset of the world markets in relation to the gold bullion spot price, occurred in order to recalibrate the global monetary value system. 22. Britain's vote to leave the European Union increased investor demand for safe haven government bonds, even when the yield was below zero, and by July 5, the Swiss government bond curve was below zero. Bond yields were driven by inflation and growth, but there was no inflation and no growth. The economy was built on confidence, and if there was no confidence, there was no economy. Bloomberg noted a rising concern about the outlook for economic growth and inflation, meant investors were now paying the Swiss government for the privilege of lending to them out to 50 years. Investors expected further interest rate cuts and monetary easing from central banks around the world in response to the increased economic uncertainty. Cyron O'Hagan, senior rates strategist at Société Générale in Paris said, "It's a reflection on the very bad prospects for the European and global economy." 23. A meeting with the Rothschilds and White Dragon Society representatives was held on July 5, where they discussed how to create a financial system that was good for both humanity and nature, and created a new meritocratic, democratic, and transparent system for planning the future of our species and this planet. 24. On July 5, the Rothschilds and other top Hazarian mafiosi families like the Borgia, the Medici, the Del Banco, Warburg, the Rockefellers, including the Clintons, the Bushes, Pecky, were given until July 10 to reach a peace agreement and release the funds. After that, the Hazarian Mafia would lose any chance of participating in setting up the new financial system, plus be subjected to a total boycott that would likely drive them into bankruptcy. 25. Also after July 10, a bounty of $100 million each, payable in gold, would be handed over to anybody who could arrest the members of the cabal who had held up the global currency reset over 164 times. If they resisted arrest, they would likely be killed, as would members of their family. 26. A senior Pentagon official said, "I have been told from multiple sources that there is a multitude of people who are waiting for the RKM, Rothschilds and Bowers, to not cooperate. These people are eager to end the lives of the RKM criminals at every level. You may want to let the representative know that this is for real and they cannot run or hide, their time is up. It is time to fold or they will all die, including their families, to the furthest distant cousins, effectively ending the evil bloodlines who have bedeviled mankind for so long. Again, good luck with the negotiations. If they renege, there will be consequences, major ones. That being said, have a great day." 27. Germany had already reached an agreement with the Chinese elders. The other EU country where a crisis was quickly coming to a head was Italy. Their Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi promised a €150 billion government bailout for Italian banks, only to be publicly scolded by the Germans who said no to such a deal, because they would end up paying for it. The Italians then told the Germans it was up to the Italians to decide. This degenerated into a public spat that was likely to end up with Italy reverting to the lira and Renzi resigning, CIA sources in Europe said. 28. The pro-EU factions of the cabal tried to stop disintegration of their hold over the global monetary system by proposing an even tighter, more centrally controlled EU. They proposed expanding the EU into the Middle East and Africa. 29. Evidently under such great pressure, on July 5, the Bank of International Settlements finally gave their okay for the global currency reset. On that date, the International Monetary Fund allowed the Federal Reserve to release their funds. 30. On July 6, a military contact at a base in Iraq reported that Mosul was virtually done. Reports earlier in the week stated the Iraqi flag had been flying in the city for about a week. Some ISIS were still hanging around, but no real treats. 31. As of July 7, repeated attempts to more than pay off the U.S. national debt using $800 trillion, $27 trillion, and $9.1 trillion of taxpayer monies illegally held by the Federal Reserve, had been continually thwarted by the cabal. The global currency reset would more than solve the problem, but had been thwarted over 164 times. Several $100 million had been confiscated by the Clinton Foundation. At present, most of these funds were in European bank accounts awaiting the global currency reset. Refer to this movie trailer of a soon-to-be-released documentary about corruption at the Federal Reserve, Eagle 1 to Wanta. 32. There was a feature documentary film that dissected history of the U.S. monetary system and its relationship to the cabal, CIA, and 9/11, which happened as an initial global currency reset was to take place, Presidents Johnson and Bush's and the assassination of President Kennedy. Right before Kennedy was murdered, he had signed documents which would have closed the Federal Reserve.
All the links in the article can be found down in the description box.